Okay, guys, hope you all have your seatbelted in with your hands and feet inside the vehicle at all times because it is time for things to get a little more wild. My name is Alex, and welcome back to our continued descent into madness as we explore the many forbidden search terms of the Japanese internet. If you haven't checked out part 1 just yet, I recommend you do that as this is episode 2 of a 7-part series. It's totally not required, but it's a good start as things are going to get a little darker and possess more general themes of, oh dear god, what the actual fuck. If that wasn't obvious enough, things are going to get more unsettling and there may be some unpleasant visuals and subject matter ahead, so fair warning. I will, of course, censor things that require censorship though, so don't even worry about that. I'm the one who has to look at it. Enough stalling though, let's go ahead and proceed. Racoon Gal. Gyaru, or gal, is a fashion trend in Japan that was mainly popular in the early to mid 2000s. This image fuses one of those gyarus with a raccoon. Well, multiple raccoons. Phantom Brain. This is an animation officially titled Jukai no Kami ni Natte Phantom Brain and can be found on YouTube. It was created by Haru no Yona Mono and features psychedelic and uncanny imagery that becomes very unsettling in parts. Crumpled Head. Here's another advertisement. I'm just gonna show it. Wanna guess what they're advertising and leave it in the comments? Go ahead and write down what you think. It's fine, I'll wait. So, did you guess financial services such as dealing, brokerage, underwriting, and distribution of securities? Yes? Well, awesome! You got it right and you win a brand new car! Anyways, this company is called Iwai Cosmo Securities and is still around today. This advertisement dates back to 1990, and the official title for this ad is Cosmo Shoken Atama ga Shiwakucha. In all seriousness, this ad is described as unsearchable because it makes some people feel uncomfortable and claustrophobic. This may speak to Japanese culture a lot when bearing in mind how personal space can be more prioritized and coveted in Japan as opposed to more Western cultures. But then there's... A boy who wanted to be natto. Natto is a Japanese food that is definitely not for everyone. It has a very distinct smell and taste and overall texture. Personally, I just cannot. I just can't. What is it though? It's fermented soybeans. Fermented meaning it was left to sit out and ferment for a significant duration of time. Now, with that information understood, take a look at this image. I would personally say that this lad is one of those people who really like natto. Good for him. Kitchen Mother. This one is another spooky government PSA, which is something I heard you guys are pretty into. Typically, with Japanese advertisements, it's kinda hard to guess what's actually being sold or what the intended message is. This is not the case with this one. Here's the ad, though I feel I need to censor it a little bit. It definitely makes the impact it intends to make. It's pretty impressive for only 30 seconds. The ad is technically titled Kakuseizai Boshi Kyanpen Haha Toko, and was produced by the Japanese government as an anti-drug PSA in 1982. It likely left a pretty big impact on kids who saw it at the time. Guro Totoro. This is in reference to some wicked gnarly art based on the Studio Ghibli film My Neighbor Totoro, or Tonari no Totoro. I think it's pretty cool, but I can also see how this can ruin someone's innocent, lighthearted memories of seeing this film. If you have no issue with your perception of My Neighbor Totoro being tarnished, I'd recommend looking into some of the urban legends surrounding Totoro and how some believe it's loosely based on a real murder that took place in Japan. It's fascinating, but also very dark, so viewer discretion, or reader discretion, whatever, is advised on that one. The Disappearing Sand Statue. This is a well-known AC Japan PSA from 2003. It's categorized on the Do Not Search wiki as one of the most famous of the PSAs that AC Japan has put out. There's others listed, but I'm saving those for my AC Japan PSA Iceberg video, so stay tuned to hear about those ads later. The PSA is simple enough. It's similar to Kitchen Mother in that it showcases parents engaging in the act of dieting and leaving their children alone. On the real though, this ad has a very striking amount of ascendancy in commanding the audience's attention for only 30 seconds. This one aired to make known the dangers of a rise in sea level due to global warming. While the ad itself is certainly stirring, there's a creepy urban legend tied to this ad that gained a lot more notoriety. You may not have caught it, but around 8 seconds into the commercial, on the right side of the screen, you can see a black figure emerge from the water ever so slightly before becoming submerged. It's gone as quickly as it was seen. Many people perceive this figure as a hand reaching up in desperation as they attempt to stay afloat. Once you're aware of it, it's definitely creepy. Those who want a more logical explanation to this occurrence believe the figure may just have been a surfer that simply wasn't edited out of the shot. Tomino's Hell. If you have some familiarity with creepy internet stories, then you may have already heard of this poem by Yomota Inuhiko. It was written in 1919 and has some very poignant and unpleasant subject matter as it narrates a boy and his siblings as they make the descent into hell. Good times all around over here. There's an urban legend surrounding this poem as well. According to the legend, the reader will be cursed to perish or have tragic things happen to them if they read this poem out loud. Don't worry guys, I'm not going to read any of this poem out loud to you. Rather not become cursed for the sake of my content if it hasn't happened already. Anyways, according to the legend, this poem is a-okay to read silently to yourself within your mind. So, go ahead and do that if you wanna. There's also this painting strongly associated with the poem, though it has nothing to do with the actual poem. The art is done by the still living artist Yuko Tatsushima, and definitely worth checking out if you like this kind of, aesthetic. Shiroi Hitogata. This is Hitogata, a well-known Japanese urban legend that recently gained traction in the lost media community. It's an urban legend that began online referencing a supposed railway safety PSA that showcases two white human figures fading in and out as the sound of a train can be heard in the background. According to this legend, this aired sometime between the late 80s to early 2000s, though this information is only provided by the online accounts of those who claim to have seen it. Hitogata remains unconfirmed in its existence and is potential lost media. Searching it up will provide you with some pretty eerie fan recreations, however. The ending of Fresh Blood. If you're a consumer of the Japan cartoons, also known as anime, you may be quite familiar with the notoriety of the visual novel turned anime titled School Days. The search term specifically involves the series finale of the anime as well as the bad ending of the game. As far as the anime goes, it's really graphic and kind of came out of the left field in terms of the plot. The anime is not great and the characters really suck. I strongly dislike them. Oh, also, this aired on television. Like on an actual TV station. Well, all of it except for the final episode that never aired due to its similarity to an axe murder case that occurred at the same time. So, take that as you want to take it. Okoshite Okosite. A TV broadcast incident captured during a news segment on TV Miyazaki, a local station that's headquartered in Miyazaki City of, you guessed it, Miyazaki Prefecture. The incident itself occurred when Tetsushi Yanagita, an announcer and TV personality, was engaged in, and I quote, ass wrestling over a muddy rice paddy. Yanagita fell in the mud face first, damaging his spine, and was unable to get up. The people present at the filming were unaware of the injury at the time, and he could not communicate his need for help through the mud as he fell face first. The incident left Yanagita paralyzed and was captured on film on this TV broadcast. Hekate Station. This one is another creepy webpage, hekatestation.net. It's very abstract and ominous. At face value, there isn't much to it, however, it does contain a secret. At a certain point within the webpage, there is a prompt to input a password. When the correct password is entered, a cryptic diary will be unlocked and suddenly downloaded as a zip file. This diary has a total of 9 chapters, and they're all named after either a planet or moon phase. And if you thought the diary entries would clarify the purpose of this site in any way, well, it doesn't. People like to try and decipher the meaning of the diary, though it's likely that the true meaning behind what is actually going on here and the contents of the diary will never be clarified. Some of the entries read like a science fiction novel, though some even go as far as speculating that the creator was a time traveler, kind of like John Teeter, that kind of stuff. Love, Courage, and Wrinkles. A puzzle game that's pretty well known on the Do Not Search wiki, as well as the Japanese internet as a whole. As far as like internet culture goes, not really like with normal people, but you know what At face value, it seems like a normal puzzle game, similar to something like Puyo Pop or Panel de Pon, and it is as you initially play it. The game, found on a site called Katatema, gradually becomes darker as you play it. How so? Well, there's this girl with green hair lying at the bottom right of the screen. There's also a boy in the background of the screen who gets closer and eventually to the foreground. As he gets closer, the boy's face becomes a skull, signifying death, and approaches the girl with the intention of taking the girl to, the afterlife or whatever. When the game ends, the girl dies. Suddenly, it feels a little more than just a puzzle game, more so it's simulating a sick girl trying to just stay alive. There is a hidden ending, however. If the player can get a score higher than 50,000, the girl will be seen leaving the hospital and not dying. An eternal answering machine. This one is a visual novel game made for Windows. It's pretty disturbing in its subject matter. It entails torture elements, and the story involves a doctor kidnapping a young girl. I don't think I need to explain that one further, or rather, I don't want to. This game has a cult following, and I really wish it didn't. Aoi Heya. A bizarre webpage that shows footage of a liminal and rundown blue room. The footage itself is quiet as it pans back and forth but eventually plays a loud and distressing scream. The site itself is down, but a video still exists on YouTube. From what I can gather, this site was infamous for startling its visitors back in the day, in a fashion similar to screamer videos on YouTube around, 2008-ish. Natty Hagood. And now, my friends, it's time to get into the more gory and unpleasant imagery that fits under the Do Not Search umbrella. Natty Hagood is the supposed name of a snowboarder who saw a rather unpleasant fate while tearing up those slopes like he's up in a Rocket Power episode or Sonic Adventure 2 or some crap. This image is American in origin, but gained traction from both the gore and the odd situations surrounding the gore. See, snowboarding and skiing is kinda dangerous, at least once you get into the more advanced slopes and attempt those maneuvers and tricks that are more on the riskier side. This man did something a bit risky and somehow ended up with a tree branch impaling the skin beneath his bottom lip. I'm censoring this image, it's pretty gross, but feel free to seek it out on your own if you're brave enough. The Red Monkey Folder. This is a famous Japanese search term that leads to a virus called Sweet IM. Be extremely careful if you look into this one. There is not much to it, but looking into it in any caliber beyond just the search terms that come up could mess up your computer. thus making it a forbidden search term and, all that. It definitely sounds like there is more to it, like, ooh, red monkey folder, that sounds super spooky. Is a red monkey with a really messed up face gonna, pop up and scare me? Oh no. But no, that's not what it is, and I think that's the point, to get people to look it up and infect their computers, so, again, you've been warned. I'll get no Satsujin Jiken. Sure, true crime is pretty messed up and all, but what about Meiji-era true crimes that have never been solved? No, in all honesty, it's pretty messed up. Let's abridge this for you all real quick. So, the case is called Ao Gett because the perpetrator was allegedly wearing a blue blanket. So, Ao is blue, Gett is short for blanket. It is theorized that the perpetrator was fairly young, being a man around 35 years old of age. According to the accounts of people at the time, he told the shop clerk that his aunt was sick and needed help. He asked the shop clerk to come to the aunt's house and provide the assistance she needed. On this day, February 12th of 1906, it was snowing pretty bad and the shop clerk assumed there was a legitimate emergency. They went with the man in the blue blanket. Following this, and on that same day, the man sure as heck had a pair because he returned to the same place and asked the mother and wife of the shop clerk to come help as well. He even attempted to have the family's 2-year-old daughter come along, but a babysitter apparently took the child instead. Well, were there any sick relatives? No. City records confirmed there were no confirmed illnesses at this time. In the days following, the bodies of the wife and mother were found in the Kuzuryu River. The body of the shop clerk was never discovered. This case, being 116 years old now, was never solved. Bathroom. This is a free flash horror game that's supposedly pretty horrific with the use of sounds and visuals in the game. It's a little cryptic, huge surprise there, right? That's apparently my favorite word in this one, and has 9 different endings. There isn't much to elaborate on, but here's some game footage to get a feel for how eerie the game actually is. A lot of the notoriety for this one mainly comes from the visuals. Kaai iso우. This word is in reference to a, wait for it, can you guess what word I'm gonna use? Cryptic letter that was delivered to a family 3 years after the disappearance of their daughter in 1991. The letter is pretty famous in Japan in a way that's similar to like the Zodiac Killer letter in the West. That's the best way I can really describe it, I think. This letter has been the source of a great deal of speculation as well as confusion for over 30 years now. The letter is famous for its use of katakana, kanji, and hiragana. I could go into the importance of appropriate use of these alphabets to properly articulate what you're saying for an extended period of time, but I won't because that will be very long and boring. Anyways, the letter uses katakana in ways that's not typically what you use katakana for. Usually it's for borrow words, foreign words, words that are not Japanese in origin, and that makes the subject matter even more confusing. The document is 3 pages in length and to this day has not been officially made sense of. And what of the girl who got abducted? Her name is Yuki-chan. The case unfortunately remains unsolved to this day and is among Japan's best known missing persons cases. Nier Died. If you are a fan of the Enixes of the Square variety, you may have played one of the games in the Nier series. What was originally a one-off game in 2010 eventually saw a revival 7 years later in 2017 and yet another addition to the series recently in 2021. Now, Nier Died specifically is in reference to an unsettling, uncensored version of an advertisement for Nier Automata, a 2017 game which features a doll being crushed, and it's gross. Red Room. No, I am not referring to the deep web thing, just to be abundantly clear. This is an urban legend. Apparently, while if browsing the internet, you encounter a red pop-up asking the question, "Ski desu ka?" or "Aoi Heya ski desu ka?" from what I can gather, you will die if you decide to close the pop-up and not engage. This means, do you like it or do you like the Red Room, by the way? This legend, which has some pretty mad creepypasta energy, has led to the creation of various Flash games that simulate it. The most famous is Red Room Curse Complete Edition, and it's pretty spooky, scary, skeletons. No skeletons, but it's pretty spooky. It eventually goes full screen and gives the effect that you're kinda stuck with it on the screen. It then lists off various names. These are speculated to be names of victims who were killed by this spooky boy. This name format is actually very similar to another urban legend that we'll be talking about in the next tier/episode. It is equally spooky. I do not want to read this text out loud. Feel free to translate it. Anyone remember Yahoo Answers? Anyone ever ask really cringy stuff on there? And then move to make more awkward inquiries on Reddit after Yahoo Answers closed? Just me? Okay, alright, I will see myself out then. Bye guys, it's been real. So, anyone familiar with this hellscape is aware of the abundance of cringe questions that were on there. This search term is in reference to an especially uncomfortable one. See, the person asking the question is the mother of a daughter. This daughter apparently has an unhealthy obsession with something Okasan over here should not be aware of to the degree she is aware. Long story short, the mom is concerned, and the post is very, very uncomfortable. Hatakeyama Suzuka. This is the name of a lady. This lady is insane. A horrible, horrible human being. Literally a monster. So, she's a serial murderer, known for killing multiple children, including her own daughter in April of 2006, and her daughter's friend, a boy who lived next door 1 month later. There's also this really creepy urban legend about a man appearing in the window of Hatakeyama's home during a TV broadcast. Long story short, Hatakeyama was arrested in June of 2006 and sentenced to life in prison. The Old Inunaki Tunnel. This name, which translates to Howling Dog Tunnel, is the site of a grotesque murder that took place in the late 1980s and is now a popular ghost spot. The tunnel itself is located in Miyawaka town of Fukuoka Prefecture. What actually happened the night of the murder, the night where 20-year-old Koichi Umeyama was brutally tortured and ultimately killed by a group of young men simply because he refused to let them steal his car, is disturbing to say the least. Ultimately, all 4 of the men involved in the murder went to prison for their crimes. While the tunnel itself is almost completely closed off, it is still possible to go see it and even attempt to go inside if you're brave enough to attempt it. Photos and videos of the location itself exist, and it's pretty unsettling. If there's anything I could describe as having a truly threatening aura, this would be it. Kurume Pliers. And here's yet another grotesque event. Basically, the boss of a construction company in Kurume City within Fukuoka Prefecture would often resort to violent, physically abusive punishments. Among the more extreme and unbearable is where this forbidden search term comes in. Allegedly, the employees who made multiple mistakes were beaten with metal pipes, hammers, and even had their fingers pinched with pliers until they ultimately broke. That last one is definitely more than allegedly, though, actually, as the actual footage exists and can be found online, so be careful when looking into this one. And this concludes Tier 2 of Kensaku shite wa ikenai kotoba, the Iceberg. We do have 5 more tiers to go, and things are going to get a little more dark. So keep that in mind. I'm sure you're aware. I keep saying this, but I do want to make sure my viewers are, very much aware. Anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments about all this stuff going on, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye for now! I also want to thank everyone who has supported me on my brand new Patreon thus far. So a huge thank you to Lester Young, Bishonen Knife, Jordy Kirk, Elizabeth Paulino, Soko, Jojo, Kevin, and Judge Judy 69. If anyone out there is interested in supporting me on Patreon, the link will be in the description below.